let's talk about the best and worst intermittent fasting schedules for weight loss, shall we? So I'm looking at this random list, and this is actually coming from medicalnewstoday.com. It's only a list of 6 schedules, and yes, I am fully aware that there are way more than just 6 types of fasting schedules, but I feel like this particular list of 6 is decent. All 6 schedules are pretty much different. It's not like we're trying to figure out the difference between 16-8 versus 18-6. Like with these schedules, you can actually see the differences between each one. Anyway, the first one we have here is fasting for 12 hours a day. Now keep in mind, as I'm going through these, the main topic is trying to help someone to lose weight through fasting. So 12 hours a day, basically 12-12. I would say this is probably one of the worst, just because this schedule, in my opinion, is pretty much how we all eat on a regular basis, if you haven't noticed already. So for example, me, if I wasn't trying to lose weight and it was just a normal day for me, my first meal is pretty much around 8 to 9, and this is without fasting, by the way. So from 8 to 9, and then my last meal is typically around 5 to 6. And as I just said, this is pretty much already how everyone typically eats. So in terms of using it for weight loss, yeah, it can work as long as you understand that you need to be in a deficit and that you need to preferably eat more healthy. But if you don't do any of those things, the schedule is pretty much useless. Number 2, fasting for 16 hours. This one is the most common that everybody follows when they're trying to lose some weight, and I feel like this is more of the middle ground where if you follow each step correctly, the schedule is definitely going to work for you, but it could also easily go downhill if you don't know what you're doing. So yes, this particular schedule is popular for a reason, so I'm going to say yeah, it's one of the best you can follow if you do everything correctly. Next, we have fasting for 2 days a week, also known as the 5-2 diet. And this is also one of those schedules I feel that can work most of the time, but can also fail a lot of the times if, again, you don't know what you're doing. So it says here, people following the 5-2 diet eat standard amounts of healthful food for 5 days and reduce the calorie intake on the other 2 days. So the key in order to make this schedule work is you need to focus on the amount of food that you're eating. Yes, preferably healthful, but at the end of the day, your priority should be the amount. In other words, the calories. And then it says, and reduce calorie intake on the other 2 days. So there's only 2 days of the week that you are reducing calorie intake, while the other 5 you're not, supposedly. So if you don't do that for the other 5 days and you screw up on those other 5 days, and think that you being in a deficit on the other 2 days is going to fix that, it won't. But if it was the other way around, where you screwed up for 2 days of the week, but were in a calorie deficit the other 5, the schedule is obviously going to work. So there's definitely a lot to consider, a lot to think about, but important things to think about in order for this one to work. So with that said, my opinion on this one would have to be one of the worst. Next, we have alternate day fasting. Yes, I'm not going to delay with this one and just say this is also one of the worst, for one simple reason. Alternate day fasting simply means there are days when you fast and some days that you don't. So if we apply this schedule to someone who's trying to lose weight, I never really understood the logic behind this specific schedule, because the logic here is pretty much telling me that if you have a goal of wanting to lose weight, you're basically saying there are some days you want to reach that goal and some days that you don't. What's up with that? That just makes you a lazy person, to be honest. So enough of that. Next, we have a weekly 24-hour fast. Now, I'm not really going to bother reading what their definition of this is. I'm just going to go by what I'm pretty sure this means. If it's saying a weekly 24-hour fast, I'm assuming that only means 1 day out of the week. If that's the case, this is a terrible idea, because like I said, we have to think about the ratio where we need to make sure that the days we are in a deficit are more than the days that we are in a surplus. So if we apply this and we assume we're only in a deficit, aka this 24 hours for 1 day, and the other 6 we're not, you're not going to lose any weight at all. But if we turned that around and said, I'm going to be in this 24-hour fast for more days throughout the week, like let's say 2 or 3, and you are making sure that you are continuing to eat healthy and watching what you eat during the other days, with that combination, yes, this will work. But if you don't have that combination, this isn't going to work, obviously. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this particular schedule, but I'm going to say if you know what you're doing, the schedule is awesome. It's super easy to reach your goal. And yeah, so for this one, I'm going to say if you know what you're doing, once again, this is one of the best that you can choose. Next, we have the Warrior Diet, which involves eating very little, usually just a few servings of raw fruits and vegetables during a 20-hour fasting window, then eating one large meal at night. The eating window is usually around 4 hours. I don't really need to say much for this one, and all I'm gonna say is that it is one of the best because it does say it does involve you eating raw fruit and vegetables, which are generally in low calories, as long as you don't overdo it. The eating window is short, thus having a shorter eating window gives you less time to eat, gives you less time to make mistakes. This is a pretty good schedule to put you in that necessary calorie deficit. All right, well that was fun and hopefully informative. And if you found it helpful, then give this a like, sub, all that good stuff. And with that said, I will see you guys next time.